Hi, this is Andrea, and this is HIT 210, Chapter 13, Part 2 with CPT-4 coding. We're going to pick up on the next slide. So here we go. Add-on codes. Okay, what are add-on codes? They are supplemental procedures. They have the plus symbol next to them. You will find them in Appendix D in the back of the book. They are never reported alone. So if you're doing a procedure and you have an add-on, it's not normal that you would have the add-on, but sometimes you would. In fact, I'm going to pull out my book here and give you some examples. Let's do that. So good old Appendix D. What are some examples of add-on codes? Well, goodness, there are quite a few. There's everything from 01953 all the way up to 0138U. So let's just pick one of these, okay? We will take the first one, 01953. 01953. Can you guess which chapter that is? I'm guessing anesthesia because it starts with a 0. Okay, sure enough. If you look at a current coding book and you go to 01953, it is an add-on code. There's a plus in front of it. Okay, this code cannot be used alone. It's always used in conjunction, it says here, with 01952. And 01952 is anesthesia for second and third degree burn, excision, or debridement with or without skin grafting, any site for total body surface area treated during anesthesia and surgery between 4 and 9% of the total body surface area. And the add-on code of 01953 is for each additional 9% total body surface area or part thereof. So if you have an unfortunate soul who is receiving anesthesia for second or third degree burn, excision, or debridement with or without skin grafting, any site on the body for a total body surface area treated during anesthesia and surgery, and let's say that theirs was, I don't know, 50%. I mean, I hope that would never happen to anyone, but okay, for the sake of argument. So you would have 01952, but you'd have the add-on code of 01953 multiple times because you have to cover each additional 9% total of body surface area part. So again, it's a supplemental procedure. It has a plus symbol. You'll notice this plus symbol right in front of it. It will be listed in Appendix D. It's never reported alone. It can be reported twice for bilateral procedures unless guidelines prohibit. You do not ever use modifier 50 with an add-on code. So you just need to know if you're using an add-on code from Appendix D, or you notice that you're using something with a plus symbol, do not use modifier 50, especially if you're talking bilateral procedures, okay? So that's the rule about add-on codes and an example. All right, Appendix A, good old modifiers. So here we are about modifiers. What are we talking about? Well, I'm going to flip to Appendix A here in the handy dandy book I have in front of me, and we will see what it says. It says, this list includes all the modifiers applicable to CPT 2020 codes. A modifier provides the means to report or indicate that a service or procedure that has been performed has been altered by some specific circumstance, but not changed in its definition or code. Modifiers also enable healthcare professionals to effectively respond to payment policy requirements established by other entities. All right. So, some examples. All right, again, the procedure or service is altered by circumstance, but not by definition. So you're still doing the procedure or the service, which is the CPT-4 code, but circumstances around that performance are altered. Maybe it's a matter of technical or professional components. Maybe it was performed by more than one provider. Maybe it was performed in more than one setting or location. Maybe the content was increased or decreased. Maybe they were only able to partly perform the procedure or service. It could have been an adjunctive procedure service that was performed at the same that was also performed at the same time and occurrence. Maybe you had something sort of additional that's with it. Maybe it was performed bilaterally. We just talked about modifier 50 in the slide before this, saying that with add-on codes, you cannot use modifier 50, which is performed bilaterally. So, for instance, if you have a procedure, maybe you think carpal tunnel release of the nerve in the wrist, you need to do that carpal tunnel release, nerve release. Okay, you'll probably use modifier 50 if you perform it bilaterally. The procedure is not changed. The definition of the procedure has not changed. The circumstances are that you perform it bilaterally, so you'd use a modifier 50 with that CPT code. Another example, performed more than once at the same time occurrence. And we kind of went over that when we talked about add-on codes, that you could, because of the percentage with that burn debridement, you could end up using it more than once at the same time occurrence to clearly define the percentage of what was being done. You might also have a modifier because something unusual occurred. These are the most common reasons you would use a modifier. They are not the only reasons you would use them. You need to look at Appendix A for all of the reasons, but these are some basic ones that you just need to be familiar with. All right, so common modifiers. What are you going to see when you're talking about anesthesia? Again, those 000 codes. There's a new requirement, new in 2020, about physical status. You have to use a modifier. Now, again, this is not in an ambulatory surgery center setting, so be aware of that. Not in an ambulatory surgery center setting. But physical status, if you're doing an anesthesia code, is the patient normal healthy? Do they have mild systemic disease, severe systemic disease, not expected to survive without the operation, or are they brain dead and their organs are being harvested? So that's their physical one of those physical statuses has to be used as a modifier when you're using anesthesia codes. Some common and general modifiers that are used in surgery and medicine are, for instance, the anesthesia was by the surgeon. You'll see this a lot with colonoscopies, sigmoidoscopies. A lot of times the gastroenterologist who's performing the procedure will do the anesthesia themselves because they're using Versed, they're not doing general anesthetic, that type of thing. So you may see a modifier 47 put on when an anesthesia is being done by the surgeon. We talked about bilateral procedure. 51, there are multiple procedures, but they must be unrelated. Let's say this patient had to have some things done on both their upper GI system and their lower GI system at the same time, but they're unrelated. You would use a modifier 51 to indicate that there were multiple procedures performed, but they were unrelated to one another. 52 is for reduced services. Let's say a doctor gets in, he's intending to do the service, but he has to back off for whatever reason and isn't able to do the whole procedure. Modifier 52 tells you it was reduced. 53 says, oh, we got in and we discontinued it. We just had to stop along the way. We found something we weren't expecting. We had to discontinue it. It may be that there was some cancer found or some kind of blockage and they had to discontinue the procedure. to deal with whatever else they needed to do, or because they couldn't go forward with what they were doing, and that's modifier 53. A very common one you will see is modifier 59. Now, it's common, but it can get you into a lot of trouble when you're talking about corporate compliance and fraud and abuse. So be very careful with 59. Distinct procedural service, it's unusual to report these together. So let's say you have two totally different procedures that were performed on the patient, and it's very unusual that you would report them as being done at the same time or in the same place or in the same surgical setting, those types of things. That's when you use a modifier 59. And a modifier 99 is, oh my word, we have more than one of these things going on at a time. How do we pick from them? We really can't, so we're going to have to use a modifier 99. Again, modifier 99 can be a hint that your claim needs to be looked at a little more closely, and they may require medical record documentation with the claim to process it. But if you truly have something where you've got modifier 50 and you have modifier 52, you have to use 99 instead of 50 and 52 as an example. All right, so let's move on to the next slide. Unlisted procedures or services. What happens when there is no code in CPT for the procedure or service? Because guess what? There are times where we don't have a code in CPT for what the doctor did or what the provider did. What do? There is an unlisted code, and that's what you use. Now, you don't want to use that unless you absolutely have to, because again, you will probably need to send a copy of the procedure report with the claim to justify using an unlisted code and to explain that it really does fall into the unlisted code. But on the plus side, procedures and services that fall under unlisted codes may eventually get their own CPT code. And that's a lot of times what they're doing is they're hanging on to, they're watching them to see, do we need to get them their own CPT code? So it's not a bad thing, it just happens occasionally. We are now at 12 minutes and you're probably ready for a break. So let's stop the video here and I will catch back up with you shortly.